William Shakespeare once said, "Round and round, our love will find a way, just give it time." In the entry-level cruiser market comes this offering from Kawasaki, the Kawasaki 450 Eliminator. All LEDs, liquid-cooled, 6-speed, chain drive, super easy shift. I mean, this clutch is so easy to pull. It's crazy. Brakes are nice and bitey. You got the same brake in the front as you do on the Ninja 400. This is the same rotor, I'm pretty sure. I would like having the extra gas. I like the riding position. I like having my legs like that. It was very comfortable. I was not eating my knees. And I could not say that on any of the three Rebels. But you can check out my review of the Honda Rebel 300, 500, and 1100 DCT on TG MotoRider on YouTube. Also, be sure to hit subscribe and hit that little bell thingy so you get a notification every time I make a new review. I also did a full review of the Kawasaki Vulcan S. You can check that out too on TG MotoRider. Yeah, it's not nearly as fast as the Kawasaki Vulcan S. Not even close. On a chilly November day, it's hard to tell which one to get, especially if you're just buying your first bike. But this one is no slouch. It's based on the Ninja 400 motor. It's got a longer stroke. It's got a few more horses. Kawasaki claims 52 horsepower. Let's see how it does. We are going to take this on the highway and give it the beans. Let's go for a ride. When hard throttling the 450 Eliminator, you feel a lot more pull than you do on the Rebel 500. Plus, this has a digital tachometer, so you can watch your RPMs rise right around the 6,000 to 8,000 RPM range. That's where you want to be. That's where you're going to feel all the pull in most of the gears. I thought this bike was much more zippy than the Rebel 500, and pound for pound, they really are about the same price. The seat's way more comfortable. It's a much more comfortable riding position. I was not eating my knees on this bike, and I felt like if I had to be on this bike, I could easily be on the bike literally all day long. You can also ride in confidence knowing you've got anti-lock brakes, of course, and a slipper clutch, which I think is pretty cool. And you can Bluetooth your phone, link to your bike, and get the Rideology app. It'll track your routes, give you engine stats, that kind of thing. It's kind of cool. The Eliminator has paired Bluetooth. When you get the app, you can pair your phone to this. It'll track your trip. It'll give you some engine stats. There's your Bluetooth button there flashing. And it'll basically tell you when the next scheduled maintenance is, that kind of thing. On the Honda Rebel 500, you have 4.8 inches of travel in the front, 3.8 in the back. The Kawasaki 450 gives you 4.7 in the front and 3.1 in the back, so it's a little bit softer ride on the Honda Rebel 500, but I have to say the seat, the stock seat on this Kawa is way better, in my opinion, way more comfortable than the stock seat on the Rebel 500. The Honda Rebel 500 gives you a 2.9 gallon tank. This Kawasaki 450 gives you 3.4 gallons. So that extra half gallon, if you're going to be all day in the saddle, that does kind of make a difference. At least to me. I'm on my bikes all the time. So I would give that point definitely to the Kawa. And in terms of just general riding comfort, it just seems like a more comfortable bike to be on. The torque stats are pretty close. You do have a few more horsepower, I think 4 or 5 more horses out of the Kawasaki than you do the Rebel 500. And you can feel it the way the motor winds out. It just winds out. You can definitely tell the pedigree of this parallel twin came from a sport bike. You can tell it when you're on there. But you're in a much more comfortable riding position, obviously. The question for me becomes, do I buy this if I have this much money? Or do I spend an extra $1,000 and just get the Kawasaki Vulcan S? You know, if you're an entry-level rider and you're shying away from the heavier horsepower or the mid to upper level horsepower that you would get from the 650 motor, this would be an excellent answer, and I think a more comfortable answer in my opinion than the Rebel series. And you don't get a tachometer on the Rebels, but you do get a digital tachometer on the Kawasaki 450, which is a good thing because the motor has a great soundtrack, but it's not super loud, so you're winding through, you want to know where you're stopping. A little bit buzzy in the lower end. You really do have to rev those gears out. You really do have to rev the gears out. This bike totally lives in the mid-range. It does feel kind of like you have a sport bike motor in it. It does give you that sense. It really, really does. I liked it. I really enjoyed riding it, to be honest with you. If this was my first motorcycle, I would be extremely happy with it. It's you know, $6,900 with ABS, brand new. That's not bad. And if you want something a little faster, pay $1,000 more, get the Kawasaki Vulcan S with ABS. There you go. Kawasaki's got it locked up pretty well in terms of the comfort. The suspension travel, I got to give to Honda. The suspension, you know, to me, eats the bumps up better on the Rebels, on the Rebel 500 and the 1100 especially. But this seat is softer, so that makes a difference too. You know, when you get down around this level, you know, it really comes down to what you're more comfortable with. But this, with the wheelbase being at 59 inches, the Rebel 500 wheelbase 58 plus inches, they're so close. They're just so darn close. They're about the same price. You can pay $1,000 more and get the Kawasaki Vulcan S 650, brand new with ABS. Tough choice. The 450 Eliminator. I will say, in slow maneuvering, the 450 is a little less wieldy, I would say, than any of the Honda Rebels, which are perfectly balanced. The Honda Rebels, the Honda VFR, the Honda Goldwings, I've test ridden, the Goldwing I own, they are always perfectly balanced. This bike is easy to slow maneuver, very easy to slow maneuver, but there's just something a little easier about the Honda when you're slow maneuvering. It just seems like it's more balanced, and when you come to a stop, it sort of sits there level for a second before it starts to lean one way or the other. So that's 1 point for the Honda, but this 450 is still quite easy to maneuver. Kawasaki does say this bike is considered ergo fit, which means easily adjustable to different riders, sizes, and that sort of thing. If you want a more comfortable seat or you want different foot pegs, you're going full aftermarket if you're going to try to make the Honda Rebel more comfortable for yourself. I do not want to denigrate the Rebel series. All three bikes were excellent. They're Honda build quality. They will last you forever. They're sharp looking. They're beautiful. They're all LED. And they've got the Honda technology. They're gorgeous. So I in no means want to denigrate what they bring to the table. But pound for pound, if I have to choose between the Rebel 500 or the Eliminator 450, I'm kind of leaning towards the 450 just for the sake of the comfort. The horsepower is so similar. I would just probably run with Kawasaki in that regard. Jury's out. Rebel 500 or Eliminator 450? Do you want the suspension travel or do you want a little bit more zip? Choice is yours. And that's my review of the Kawasaki 450 Eliminator. TG MotoRider, signing off.